Dear students, loving Sairam and welcome back. In today's lecture, we would be seeing what are the different animal products that are obtained as food and how do we classify animals based on what they eat. So let's have a quick recap of what we have done in the last class. We have seen what are the different food items, what are the ingredients that are used in these food items, and then what are the edible parts of a plant, and then how are plants as source of food, and how are animals, that is how is food obtained from animals. So food obtained from plants, we say that edible parts of a plant mean those parts of a plant which can be consumed as food. For example, if you take the fruit part of any plant, look at these examples: mango, chili, brinjal. These are the different fruit parts of the plants that are used as edible parts. Similarly, if you look at the root part, we have beetroot, turnip, carrot, etc. So each part of a plant. So looking at the flower part of the plant, we know which all items can be consumed. Similarly, looking at the stem part, these are the items that can be consumed, and looking at the leaf part, these are the items that can be consumed, and looking at the seed part, these are the items that can be consumed. So the various parts of a plant are listed here: the fruit, the root, seed, stem, leaves, flower, etc. And the part of the plant corresponding to each of these is listed here. For example, if you look at the fruit of any plant, mango is a fruit, chili is a fruit, brinjal is another fruit. Similarly, if you look at the stem part, potato, onion, ginger. So these are the few examples that are listed here. You can have a look at the other parts also. For example, if you look at seed, rice is basically seed, peas are seed, groundnut is a seed, which means what? These can be planted or placed in the soil again, and whenever necessary conditions are provided for the growth and germination of the seed, we get the same plant in multiple amounts. So this is how the germination happens. Similarly, if you look at leaves, mint leaves are there, spinach leaves are there, cabbage is the leaf part of the plant. Similarly, if you look at flower, we have different things. So this is the edible parts of the plant that we have discussed. Similarly, looking at ingredients, for example, what are the different ingredients used to prepare tea? We have taken tea as the example. Now let's see what are the ingredients that are used. Water is one of the ingredient, milk is ingredient, tea powder or tea leaves is another ingredient, and sugar is one more ingredient. Now the sources of each of these: water is obtained from nature, milk is an animal product, tea powder or tea leaves are plant products. Similarly, sugar is also a plant product. So this is how the ingredients are listed on one side and the sources of these ingredients are listed on this side. After this, we would be seeing a different kind of edible plant part, that is sprouted seeds. Just now we have seen what are the examples of seeds. Now what do we mean by sprouting mechanism? Sprouting is the natural process by which seeds or spores germinate and put out shoots. So through sprouting, whatever shoots are there inside the plant, when we soak them in water and then we let it to dry naturally over few hours, we see how sprouting happens. And these sprouts are very rich source of nutrients. At home, you can see your mother preparing sprouts occasionally. Let's see what is the process by which sprouts are prepared. So take some dry seeds of moong or chana, put small quantity of seeds in a container filled with water and leave this aside for a day. So all the seeds had to be kept in a container and that should be filled with water, and these have to be kept aside for a day so that they absorb water. The next day the water had to be drained completely, and then we wrap those seeds, the soaked seeds, with a piece of wet cloth and set them aside. So what happens the next day? That is, suppose today you are keeping the seeds inside water. After one day, that is tomorrow, we need to drain the whole water so that seeds would have absorbed a little quantity of water, and those seeds have to be kept in a piece of wet cloth, and we need to keep them aside. After one day, what happens? There is something called sprouting that happens after one day. So after washing these sprouted seeds, we can consume them or use them. The normal seeds, we know how they look. After sprouting, let's see how the seeds would be looking. This is how the seeds would be looking after sprouting. So the original seed, which is hard, is soaked in water so that it absorbs some quantity of water, and after leaving aside for one day and tying in a piece of wet cloth, what happens? Those seeds, they germinate, they give out shoots from them, and this is how the sprouts are obtained, and these sprouts are very rich source of nutrients that are very essential for a human body. Now, similarly, we have seen what are the different animal products that are obtained as food. Milk, we know how do we obtain milk by natural process. Similarly, cheese, for example, few products of animals cannot be obtained directly. After certain processing, we would be obtaining them. For example, cheese is obtained from milk, and milk in turn is obtained from cow, that is animal. Similarly, sausage comes from meat and fish, and that in turn comes from animals again. So directly or indirectly, there are ways and methods by which we can be obtaining certain foods from animals. Now look at this. Nectar is another thing that is obtained from plants, and that is converted by the honeybees into honey. So honey is an animal product, that is bees collect nectar, that is sweet juice from the flowers. We see most of the times whenever the blooming of the flowers happen in a particular season, all the bees, they come and they hover around the flower part, and they collect different kinds of juices from the flower, and that is called nectar. So this nectar or sweet juice from the flowers is collected by the bees, and they store it in a beehive so that it is converted into honey. Flowers and their nectar may be available only for a part of the year. So whichever part of the year the blooming of the flowers happen, so that particular time we see most of the bees that come towards these flowers, they collect the sweet juices from the flowers and they convert it to nectar. So bees store this nectar for their use all through the year, and when we find such a beehive, we collect the food stored by the bees as honey. So what is the food that is obtained by the bees and stored in the beehive? We are consuming the food of bees, that is the honey, and then we are making it our part of consumption. So therefore, honey, which is actually stored by bees, is being consumed by humans. And then finally, now we will be looking at as to how do we classify animals based on what they eat. So animals, when we take example, either they can eat a plant, or they can eat another animal, or they can eat both. So look at this. For example, we have different animals that are listed here, and we can see what are the things that they eat generally. So if you take the example of a buffalo, it eats grass, hay and grains. If you take the example of a cat, it eats another animal like rat, and then it eats different kinds of birds, and then it also drinks milk. Similarly, rat, if you take as an example, you can have it eating grains and it eats pulses. Lion, if you take, lion sheerly sustains by eating the meat of other animals. So if you look at the list of animals that are kept here, and then if you have a look as to what they eat, you can make out that all the animals either eat only plants or only animals, or they eat both plants and animals. So based on this, we would be classifying animals as herbivores, carnivores and omnivores. So what are herbivorous animals? So those animals which eat only plant and plant products, these are called herbivorous animals. So for example, we have cow, horse, goat, etc. And very interestingly, rhinoceros is also a herbivorous animal. Similarly, carnivores means those animals which eat only other animals or animal products. These are called carnivorous animals. So they eat other animals for the meat, or they eat for the flesh of the other animal. Example, lion is carnivorous, which means all these animals that are listed here, lion, tiger, lizard, etc., they only feed on other animals. Now, there is a different category called omnivores. Means what? These are the animals which eat both plants and animal products. Means what? They sometimes consume plant or plant products, and other times they consume animal or animal products. For example, human beings are omnivores. We consume both plants and animals. Dogs are omnivores, cat is omnivore, crow is omnivore, which means what? All these animals that are listed here, they sometimes consume plants and plant products, and sometimes they consume animal and animal products. So these are the different examples that are shown here. So herbivores, so all these, this particular set, if you look at these examples, they consume only plants. If you look at this particular example, this particular set of animals, these are called carnivores. Now look at these animals. Interestingly, we find humans also here. So these set belong to both herbivorous and carnivorous kinds, which means what? These, they depend on plant and plant products also, and they depend on animal and animal products also. So this set is exclusively only herbivorous, that is that which feeds on plants and plant products. This particular set is carnivorous, which means they feed on animal and animal products only. But this set in the middle, this is omnivorous. These are called omnivores, which means what? They depend on plants also, and they depend on animals also for their food. So these are the three kinds of classification that we make depending on what kind of food they would be eating. And why did we keep man? Man is called a social animal. That's the only reason why man is included in this kind of classification. So in the whole set, so if you want to see herbivorous animals in this, we have this set and we also have this set. These are herbivorous animals. Similarly, if you want to see herbivorous animals only, then we should look at only this set. Similarly, if you want to know which are carnivorous animals, you can have this set plus this set. All these are carnivorous animals. But if you want to have exclusively only carnivorous animals, then we should select only this particular set. So herbivorous, only herbivorous, these are only herbivorous, these are only carnivorous and nothing else, but these belong to both herbivorous and carnivorous also. So a tabular column is listed here, different kinds of herbivorous animals, carnivorous animals and omnivorous animals. Now looking at your textbook and then day to day life, when we look around, you can quickly list out maybe 3, 4. So for each of these categories, you can list out 4 kinds of animals that you can be looking at. So in this lecture, we have seen what are the different animal products, how do we obtain them, and then finally we have seen How do we classify different animals based on their food consumption? That is, how do we classify the animals as herbivores, carnivores and omnivores? With this, we conclude the discussion on this chapter, that is food, where does it come from? Sai Ram and thank you.